Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Gabe.
It's Caleb.
And today you are tuning into another episode of the Positive Outlook podcast. And what are we talking about today, Caleb?
Today, Gabe and I are going to be talking about when your back is against the wall and when it feels like life is just raining down on you, just kicking you over and over again, and really just talking about how to mentally climb out of that. But
Absolutely.
first, I have a question of the day for you, Gabe.
Uh-oh. What is it? What's the
If
question?
you if you could be any kind of animal, what kind of animal would you be?
Do you remember when we had this question?
I do.
Yeah, because
This is more of a check-in
yeah,
question,
yeah,
but
yeah. Checking question. Dude, so it depends, right? As of late, once you get more like complacent with life and you understand like sometimes your goals just can't be achieved, right? The voice of ordinary comes in. I just want to be a dog, a house dog, man. I just love to be loved all the time and eat good food and just relax all the time, right? That would be awesome. But ultimately, I mean, I think my last time you asked this question, my answer was an eagle. Just because they're big and strong and beautiful and they represent freedom and they can just go wherever they want. But that's not going to be my answer this time. Neither is the house dog because I'm hungry and I want to achieve and I want to be successful. So I'm just going to say a lion, man, because the lion's the king of the jungle, not because of its strength or its speed or its size, but because of its mentality, and that's what's important. Now, what
yeah.
about you? What kind of animal would you be?
You ready for this?
Yep.
An alley cat.
What?
An alley cat. Like a tabby cat, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Why is that?
Because they're very similar to a lion, and I couldn't repeat your answer.
Oh,
But
okay.
no, because they're always hungry. They're always hungry. They're always just going after it for their next meal. They don't know when they're gonna eat. They don't know how they're gonna eat, but they gotta eat.
Yeah,
And yet we still see them all the time. They're still out here surviving,
yeah,
and they've still got the predator eyes of a lion, where their eyes are always forward.
yep,
And it's just kind of where I'm at in life right now. So
yeah. Because they have to, right? Because they have to. So, I like your answer. It's beautiful. So, what do you wanna talk about? Where do you wanna start with this one?
I'm really just kind of talking about how when you're really stuck between a rock and a hard place, understanding that one of the first steps to getting out of it is being aware of your situation.
Mhm.
But also, we say this over and over again, try to be a little more graceful with yourself when you get into these situations, because even if it's a repetitive series of mistakes, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to help your situation by beating yourself up.
Yeah.
It might a little bit, might have a little impact on like a don't repeat this mistake again.
Yeah.
You know, when you stub your toe, you sit there and you hold it and you're angry for a second, and let yourself stub your toe.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and continue holding your toe, you're not going to move forward from where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I like where you went with that. So I think the most important part about having patience and having grace towards yourself, it's really important once you're aware of the situation, like you just said. Once you accept the circumstance that you are in and understand that you have to come out of it, be patient with yourself and understand that it might take a while. It might be painful. You might go through some struggle, but that's just life. Adversity comes. Adversity is just an opportunity for you to prove that you are greater than the situation and the circumstance. The thing is, you just have to make sure you're taking steps. You have to make sure that you see the goal and that you are working your way out of the circumstance, because if you just sit there and tell yourself like, "Oh, it's okay, I'm just human, mistakes happen, yada yada," and you're too soft on yourself, you might never feel the need to come out of that. You might stay in your comfort bubble because the pain of leaving that comfort bubble isn't worth the outcome. So sometimes the pain of being in it is enough to get you moving, and if you just sit there and tell yourself that it's okay, you might never take the steps. So be aware of your situation and then work your way out of it while being graceful with yourself.
100%. Because to me, that's what true complacency is that being too soft on yourself.
Mhm.
Because I know this because I am way too guilty of this, where, oh, it's okay. Or, like we talk about all the time, doing the most you can bear to be great versus the minimum you can do to get by.
Yeah.
When you fall into that minimum to do to get by, you start comparing yourself to company that you don't necessarily always want to see yourself around. You always see like, I notice in myself when I'm in those situations, I look around and I'm like, well, I could be in this guy's shoes, so it's not so bad if I continue down this path.
Right.
And Those are, they say, like, the best path to hell is paved with the best intentions. So you might not have the worst intentions when you have that kind of mindset, but it's this toxicity and this negative virus that kind of takes over your mind, and really it's kind of scary how quickly that can unravel into a much scarier situation. And once you're in that situation, you really got to put the brakes on before you can put the pedal to the metal, because if you're still headed down the wrong path and you step on that gas, you're only getting further from where you were headed.
Yeah, right. And it's important to note you can always turn around at any time. No matter how far down the wrong path you travel, you can always turn around. It's just you don't want to make yourself travel further than you have to. I think that's the important part. And then I said this in last episode when we went over habits that, and I just want to reiterate because it's really strong, it's really powerful. So when you feel like life's just beating you down, you feel like your back's up against the wall, you feel like you have nowhere to go but forward, and you really don't want to travel forward, you really just gotta, right? You gotta toughen up, and you gotta remind yourself there's only three things that can happen ever when you're faced with an adversity, when you're faced with a challenge. There's only three things that can happen. The first thing that can happen is you just throw in the towel and you say, well, I'm just not meant to be any better than this, and you give up. That's the first thing that could happen. Second thing that can happen is the resistance of the challenge gets lesser and you just move through because of that. The third thing that can happen is through the challenge and through the adversity, you're slowly becoming stronger and then you overcome the challenge that way. So, those are the only three things that can happen, and you're only going to fail and you're only going to not achieve your goals if you give up. That is it. That is the only way that could happen.
100%. And honestly, it's just one of those things where no one's coming to save you. No,
Hmm.
no one's gonna be helping you out here, and that's not necessarily true. I actually fully believe that everyone has some sort of help along their journey, but you have to almost develop that mindset. If
Yeah.
you're stuck in that complacency, if you're stuck in that same pattern over and over again, you almost have to kind of scare yourself, because sometimes it's difficult to break out of that cycle, and
Yep.
those particular patterns will just lead to destruction every single time.
Yeah, we really need to get rid of the win mentality. And that's one thing that I struggled with for a really long time. So in a situation, in a circumstance where I wanted to get out of it, so say we'll just use health for an example because we use it a lot on here. It's really easy. So people will say, well, when I start making a little bit more money, I'll start buying better food. When I get the hours reduced at work, or when I find a better schedule, I'll start going to the gym. When I do this, this will happen, yada, yada, yada. People will say when, and when, because they're just waiting for their circumstance in life to change so that they can as well. But if you always wait for life to happen, nothing will happen. Life doesn't react to circumstance, life reacts to change. So you need to understand that it's your job. Life responds to action. It is up to you. No one is going to do it for you, no matter how scary that is or no matter how bad that hurts to hear. It's not going to happen unless you make it happen.
100%. And there's no time like the present, guys. It's scary and it's tough, and life is not fun sometimes. It's really
Mhm.
not. And that's why you got to capitalize on wake up calls when they happen. When you're able to breathe and when you're able to kind of poke through that veil of whatever you're stuck in, and you
Yeah.
can kind of see to the other side, let that inspire you. Let that fire you up. Let that put that energy in you that you did not have before, and
Mhm.
just keep pushing through. I mean, it's it's not easy. No one said it was going to be easy. It's not always as complex as people think. It's
Mhm.
usually pretty simple, but that does not mean it's going to be an easy
Right.
task.
Simple does not mean easy, right? So, and now, okay, so say you take the first step. Say you decide that today's the day you want to better yourself. Um, it's not gonna happen overnight. I mean, we made so many analogies about a garden in our last episode that it was crazy. What we took like 3 minutes of just making new analogies with a garden, but ultimately, it's you don't plant a seed today and expect it to be grown tomorrow. That's just not how it works. You have to. Patience isn't about just doing nothing and waiting for something to happen. Patience is about putting in the time, working hard, knowing that the results will come in due time. That's all patience is. And guys, you have to take that step back. And when you're going through this journey of life, when you're going through whatever you're going through and you're working hard to get through it, a lot of the time it's not going to be instant gratification. And a lot of the times you need to stop and smell the roses. You need to be able to take a step back, and say, I'm grateful for X, Y, and Z. These are things I haven't thought about in years. My health, that my family's here, that I'm alive today, right? It can be as simple as that. I can walk, I can breathe, I can do all of those things. Some people didn't wake up today. Some people can't do those things, and I'm happy that I'm alive to do them today. It could always be worse. So make sure you stop and smell the roses because you need to be able to be grateful in this path because the gratification isn't going to be instant. You're not going to find the results overnight. It might take longer than a week. It might take longer than a month. It might take years, but the thing is consistency is the cornerstone of success. Ultimately, that's all it is. You need to stay consistent when you're moving forward. Understand you're not going to get the things instantly that you want and just have a little faith. It'll work out.
A little faith and something that's rock solid will always uphold. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean it's all about understanding when you're in these situations. And a lot of the times people say this, I don't know if you've heard this before, but things always get worse before they get better. That's just how it works. And I think the key there is that it's the awareness of the situation. So you can understand that you're going through something without being aware of it. Does that make sense? You
Mhm.
can underst
100%.
Yeah, you can understand you're in a situation before you are aware fully of what's happening. Once you become aware, it becomes scary, it becomes real, and then you know, right? You know at that point if you're not taking action against it that you're just becoming negligent. You're not doing the due diligence to yourself to become a better human being, to become better than who you were yesterday, and that's terrifying. So it's going when you're in a situation and you're in a circumstance, it's going to become harder before it becomes easier. But eventually, the second part of that is it will become easier. And I think that's the most important part is you just got to tough through it. You just got to keep your head down, keep moving forward, stay consistent with your actions. Ask yourself, well, at the end of the day, the man who gets outside or woman, the man or woman on the end of this trail who comes out of this situation, what did they do each day to get through this? And am I capable of that? Am I capable of becoming this? And I think that's really important to ask yourself because
100%.
ultimately we're all capable. We're all entirely capable of changing our lives despite our situation, despite our circumstance, despite our environment. It is up to us to use the tools and the lessons that we gain from each situation and move forward with that. We all have the capability, so let's do it.
Absolutely. Just you got to keep pushing through. No matter how many times it feels like you're restarting on square one, each time that you have to start over, you have gained experience and knowledge about your situation. And each time you get stronger and more equipped to face whatever hardships or challenges that are coming your way. And that's something that I'm personally trying to get through my brain in my situation right now. And it's a lot easier said than done, but that's why it takes repetitiveness, it takes consistency, it takes persistence. It takes all these skills that we've been working on building up with ourselves. And just like getting back into the gym, yeah, it's going to hurt. Your first few workouts are going to hurt. Your first week of workouts might hurt, but
Mhm.
once your body starts getting back in shape, you switch from that pain to where it starts getting feeling better. And the workouts aren't necessarily getting easier. In fact, a lot of times they're actually getting harder, but you're getting stronger every single step of the way. And that's why we love using the gym as an analogy, is because it's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes going to the gym, we understand that we haven't been in the gym. But then there's that point of whether you see yourself in the mirror and you're not like you're physically somewhere you said you'd never be, or you step on the scale or whatever it is, that's the awareness, that's the reality of your situation hitting you. And now it's you have two options. You can either continue down what you were doing, or you can hit the 180 U-turn, like we like to say. And
Mhm.
you can reroute. You can reroute and keep it going in the other direction. And that's really what we're talking about here. And the scales of the situation vary widely, but it's important to understand that the fundamentals do not change.
Right. Yeah, when it comes to the fundamentals, really, ultimately, that's honestly the part you just gotta hone in on. I mean, you're starting some let's say, right? You're faced with a challenge, it's totally something foreign to you. You have no clue. You've never experienced anything like this before. Okay, well, let's look at the fundamentals. Let's look at the basics and we'll go from there. Build habits, build strong habits, build proper habits and healthy habits. Find what works for you. Find something that fits into your routine, your schedule, whatever it may be, and then hone in on it and own it. You need to own that lifestyle. You need to own those changes because it's so easy to fall back into comfort. Everybody who's watching this knows that it's impossible to not feel that urge to fall back into comfort. But you have to fall in love with the growth and you have to fall in love with getting outside of your comfort zone because that's where the benefit is. You will never change, grow, or become any better staying where you're comfortable, ever.
100%. Could not disagree more. And the temptation will test you every step of the way, and it's something that resilience you have to slowly grow, and when you lose touch with that resilience, it feels impossible at times,
Yeah.
but you just have to understand that it's not impossible, even though you can tell yourself and you can think it every night, every morning, every time you try to go to sleep, whatever. It is overcomable. You can do it. You just have to believe it, and you have to get moving,
Yeah.
because I've been in states where I've believed that I can change my situation, but then I just didn't move for whatever reason. Sometimes I can't even necessarily explain the reason that I'm not moving. I just lock up and I physically have to force myself to push through that and keep building.
Yeah. And I think just one thing that I really want to lay out there, I really want to tell you guys listening right now is do not be afraid to fail because that's 90% of the reason why most times people don't take the first step is because they feel that they are incapable. They feel that they can't succeed. So, taking that first step, understanding that it's okay to fail and knowing that failure is subjective and it's personal to you. So if you take the first step, you realize the situation's hard. You realize that it's really uncomfortable. Take what you can while you're in that status of uncomfortability and learn from it. Instead of focusing on how uncomfortable you are, take a step back and just say, like, okay, well, what can I learn while I'm uncomfortable? What can I take from this? And what will benefit me most when I'm back in the situation again? Because I'll tell you guys right now, avoidance avoidance is going to be your downfall and no matter what you do in life, if you are fearful of an outcome and you don't act because of it, you have just reinforced your avoidance. You have reinforced that fear of failure and it's going to be 10 times harder to do next time. So, one thing I like to say is if you are scared to do something, that is the time to do it. If you are scared to jump, then jump. Because once you get through it and you overcome that fear of failure and you overcome that avoidance, every challenge moving forward will just feel like a cakewalk. Because every time you feel that feeling, your gut clench up and you start to sweat a little bit and you're nervous and you're like, what do I do? I don't want to take another step. You take that next step. You just do. Because it's gonna lead you to so many more opportunities and make you realize that you have so much more power in you and you are so much more capable of what anyone has ever thought of you, even what you have thought about yourself. Now, it's really important to note that people often never rise above the opinions of themselves. So you also need to raise your opinion of yourself. You need to believe in yourself and know that you can do this.
100%. And I think that was really well said. I think people just really just also don't let other opinions, affect your
Yeah.
situation. I mean, it's not always easy when you've dug a deep hole. And again, the scale ranges very much on what the hole that you're in is. But there's always a way out. You just got to stop digging. And to me, that's what avoidance is you keep digging that hole. It's like your problem sits at the surface level. You've dug yourself into this hole trying to avoid your problem, and by continuing to avoid your problem, you keep digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper. So it's
Hmm.
time to put the shovel down and start working on climbing out of that hole. No matter how tough it is, you just got to. There's no other way.
Amen. Amen, man. I love it. Well, do you have anything else that you want to add to today's episode? I feel like this has been great, dude. Powerful,
Yeah,
a lot of good messages. I hope that everyone listening, well, if you made it this far, as I always like to say, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment if you're here as well.
100%. And guys, we're happy to be on this journey. It's not always easy. It really is not easy.
Hmm.
And if it was easy, then everyone would be successful. Unfortunately, not everyone is.
I thought you
So
were gonna say if it was easy, everyone would do it. I'm like,
yeah, I know
bro,
you
we're
were.
forced to do it. I didn't ask to be here, but we're extremely blessed to be here, right? It's great. So you just got to remember that. You got to be grateful. Have a little faith in yourself, not only in yourself, but in the powers being, and then remember to just keep moving. That's all you can do. When your back's up against the wall, sometimes. Do you guys remember when you were kids and your your mom would set you up, or dad would put you up against the wall, and they'd mark right above your head. So sometimes you got to put your back up against the wall just to see how much you've grown, right? And I think that's really important. So
That was a good one.
thanks, man. That was the corny analogy I said I was going to say during this episode. So yeah. All right. Well, anything else that you want to say?
Guys, thank you as always for tuning in. I've noticed we have some comments to address on episode topics, so we will start making a couple of those episodes. If you have anything that you'd like to hear specifically, feel free to reach out. Our Instagram, we don't really post on it as much anymore. We're going to start posting more on it, but feel free to hit us up there as well, or in the comments. You know, if there's something you need to be hearing or you want to hear us talk about, feel free to drop a comment. We'd love to sit down and chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Other than that, thanks guys for tuning in. Like I said, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're new here, say what's up, drop something in the comments. But other than that, have a great day.
And happy Monday.
Peace.